So we are going to now move into the live demo portion. It is 11:48, so we're going to move through this pretty quickly. And remember, there will be Q&A at the end. So right now, give us just a moment. We're going to switch to John's phone, and he's going to film me while I talk about how to photograph your pets. So just a second while we switch. Hey everyone, this is Escher. Escher the dog. He is adopted from the ASPCA. He's about 11 years old, 12 or so, and he likes to sleep. He's a very low energy, lazy bum dog. You probably see him on my Instagram a lot. He's very, very easy to photograph. So I'm just going to demonstrate a few quick things with him. First things first, we're going to clean our lens. Clean, clean, clean your lens. Okay, second thing, here's a tip. Some people might already know this, but if you tap your screen, that's going to show you where the camera is focusing. So if I want to focus up here on the pictures, I could tap there, but I want to focus on Escher's face. So I'm going to tap him. And this looks a little brighter coming from John's phone, since we're, filming a phone right now, but you can try this on your own phone. Tap to focus. If you move around, it's going to try and keep that focal point. So frame your shot first. So let's say I want to shoot it here. Frame it first and then tap where you want to focus. Now on an iPhone, you have this little sun. I don't know if you can see it. There's a little sun here on the right of that box. If you slide your finger on the screen up and down, that's going to change the exposure of your photo. So you can tap to focus, but then you can still change the exposure. Now, here's Atlas. Now, when you tap an area, it's also going to use auto exposure based on where you tap. So when I tap here on this white wall, it's making the photo dark. If I tap on Escher now, it's going to brighten it up. So that's a good place to start, but if you need to adjust it, remember you can slide this here. Okay. Now, a lot of newer cameras have different photography modes. Mine doesn't have a lot of special stuff, but if your camera has a portrait mode, that's a great thing to experiment with. If it has HDR, that might help when you're in a low lighting situation or something with a lot of shadows and highlights. There's also burst mode. So if you hold the button down, it's going to take a bunch of photos. You'll see them counting down there. And I just took 71 photos, right? So if your pet's moving around a lot, you might want to hold that button, and then later on you can go through those 71 photos and pick the best one. Also, iPhones have something called live photos, where if you, this up here in the center, this is live. And here's the HDR setting if you need it. We're going to check out Atlas. I didn't think Atlas would join for this because he usually likes to spend his time in a dark bed. But here he is. Here's Atlas. So we'll work with him for a bit. So live photos, turn it on. If you take your picture, right? I'm going to take a lot of pictures of Atlas here. And then once you go to that photo and go to edit, there is this live icon here. Tap that. It's going to capture multiple frames for that one photo. And you'll be able to go through and find the one where your cat actually looked at you and opened his eyes. And you can select that, say make key photo, done. And there you go. So that's another great foolproof way to get the photo you're looking for. What's up, Atlas? Okay, so now I'm going to demonstrate getting your pet's attention. Now for Escher, Escher likes treats. There aren't really a lot of sounds or toys that get his attention. He doesn't understand toys because he is a rescue dog, and who knows what happened to him, but he doesn't really get toys. He also doesn't react to my sad puppy noise at all. Almost all dogs do, but not Escher, because he likes to challenge me. So we have treats. It's a variety of treats in here, and you can tell he's already interested. Now with treats, you might want to hang on to them. Keep them hidden until you're ready to actually start taking photos, because oftentimes your pet will get really excited, like Escher, and you want to save the treat until you're ready to capture the right moment. So hide it. Oftentimes, if you come to one of my pop-up pet portrait events, you'll notice that we ask you to keep your treats away. John, who's assisting me, will usually have a pocket full of treats, but we don't use them until we're absolutely ready. And a lot of dogs get way too wild and excited with treats. So we'll try other things like noises first, because they get a little too excited and crazy. And some of them get that like crazy look on their face with the treats too. So if your dog gets a little too excited about food, maybe try something else first. For Escher, it's perfect. Now, Escher is very well trained also. I love dog training. It's fascinating to me. So he's very well trained, and that really helps with photos. You can also see that our living room is set up in such a way that makes it look like a photographer lives here. So pretend that you're a photographer in your home. How would you set it up so that you're ready for photos like this? Ready? Wait, say, yes, remember, pay your models. Good boy, good boy. So break your treats up into teeny tiny little pieces. Good boy. You pose your pet. And it's also good to find a treat that they can chew quickly and that you can break up and that doesn't make your hands too greasy. Now, to get Escher to look, I am waving a treat around, right? So if I hold it, this is my shot here with Escher. If I am holding the treat over here, he's going to be looking off to the right. Oops. So remember, you want to hold the treat really close to your lens. So my lens is right here. I'm going to hold the treat real close to the lens and frame your shot. If your pet is not looking at the treat, try waving it around. Try giving them a sniff. And you might want to give them a sniff and a nibble, and then bring it back to the camera and take that shot. So wave it around, get them into it. Ooh, you want that, you want that. Bring it to the lens, take your shot. Okay, now we got that. I'm gonna switch. Hold it near the lens, wave it around. Good boy. Escher makes this very easy. I know you all will not have that benefit. And we pay our model. Good boy. Okay. Now, good job, Ash. Good job. Now we're gonna go find Lola. 6+12, great. We are gonna go find Lola. She is one of our cats, and we know exactly where she'll be because she always is there. Okay, and I am taking my laptop with me for some notes. So here we go. Join us. Our apartment here in Brooklyn. Now, oftentimes when I am photographing Lola, it's because I walked into the bedroom where she's always hanging out, and I found her doing something adorable, which she almost always is. or she's in a position that looks really cute, or the light looks really great. And I'll kind of see it and I'll go, oh my God, and I'll run, grab my phone, and as I'm coming back here into the bedroom, I'll start getting ready to take the photo. And this is what I call a found moment. And oftentimes these things will happen while your pet's sleeping, which I don't know if you noticed, but a lot of the photos of my pets are them sleeping and snoozing and lounging, because I like to capture them in their natural state. So when you find a moment like that, again, think of all the things to set up before you start taking the photos. Your background, your lighting, clean your lens. Number one tip, clean your lens. And always, as you move into, in my case, the bedroom where Lola is laying, take a few photos as you get into position, because you could ruin that adorable moment at any second. So as you're walking into the bedroom, as I'm doing that, you'll see that I am taking photos as I come in. And before I start adjusting things or moving things out of the background or trying to get Lola's attention, I'm going to take a few quick shots just to make sure I got something from that moment that I could use. That way, if I start moving things or changing things and she, is like, I'm over this, and she runs away, I at least got something from that moment. And again, this is digital photography. We have, unlimited cloud storage for like 2 cents. So take a lot of photos. Pick the best ones later. And okay, put this here. Okay, you guys want to meet Lola? Let's go. Okay, I'm gonna open my camera. Keep it clean. And I'm gonna get ready. Here's Lola. So I'm gonna come in, take a few quick shots, try a few different angles. Right? So I got that. Okay, now I'm gonna say, okay, what else can I do here? What else can I try here? So of course, you want to check your lighting. And you'll notice that here our window has blinds. And I didn't come in and immediately open those blinds because that might make Lola run away. So I came in, I got a few shots. I got something that I might want to use later. And now I'm going to come in and start changing things. These blinds I really love and highly recommend. They vary like this. So this is great. If you see studio photographers, you'll see that they use something called a softbox or an umbrella to diffuse the light that's coming out. The light coming into this window can sometimes be very, very bright, and Lola's white parts will glow in that bright light. Having this diffusion material over the light might make it a little more even and soft. And right now it's actually great. Today is an overcast sort of day. It's a little, I think it's a little rainy. It's overcast. Clouds are the sun's softbox. So the sky with clouds in it is like a giant softbox. It's great for lighting. If any of you have ever worked with a professional photographer and it rained on the day you were supposed to take photos, the photographer might have said, oh, that's great. That's so wonderful. We just have to stay out of the rain, but the light is going to be so great. And that is because the clouds create that soft, even lighting, and it avoids those shadows that you often see under people's eyes. So I'm actually going to open these to bring in even more light. I'm going to open them as much as I can. Right, so always open blinds, curtains, anything blocking the window, whatever you can move out of the window. Try to do that. When I go to a client's home, I will first look at their windows and see how much I can clear out of the way of those windows. How much natural light I can get in here. Also, your pets will really enjoy your open windows. So now I've got my lighting. Lola has actually readjusted here, and she's perfectly posing for me. So come on over here. She's looking at the light, and if you notice here, you can see the catch lights in her eye as she looks around. So I'm gonna raise up a little bit to give it a cleaner background. Lola. And I'm gonna try and get her to look toward the light and find those catch lights in both of her eyes. Good girl, Lollies. Lola's also a little bit of a brat. There we go. Okay, now. Okay. So here we are, we're taking photos of Lola, right? I got my shot, I got something cute, and now I'm looking at the background, and I see that there's a suit hanging up here. So now I'm gonna go fix that. I got a few shots before Lola moves or gets scared or runs away or gets bored of this. Now I'm gonna say, all right, how could I make this better? Let's move this. I'm gonna come back. And in our house, we always have cat toys laying around. So grab a toy, grab a treat, grab whatever you want. Also, look out for your own shadow, which this is a good example. Look for your own shadow. Make sure you're not shadowing your pet. Now, with those doors, we have a nice, clean background to get photos of Lola. And I've got my toy. So I'm going to let her play, take lots of pictures. If I want to get her to look at the lens and stop playing, I'm going to bring the toy back to my camera. I'm going to zoom in, right? And here's an example with getting your cat to look up at the light and finding those catch lights. You might change your own camera angle to get that. And coming close, again, zoom with your feet, not with your camera's digital zoom. Okay, got my verticals. Now let's say I'm gonna shoot like this. I'm probably gonna crop this square later, but I'll shoot it wide so that I have some options. Now I'm gonna get her to lay down. We're gonna do this anti-view kind of look. Get her to play, get her to interact. There we go. Take lots of pictures. Now I might want to go up above, and I do this a lot with Lola here on the bed, and on beds at clients' houses also, I'll use their bed block because you have a nice bedspread on there. It looks really nice. It's also a great way to cut out distracting backgrounds because you just have the bedspread there. Turn it, and again, you can see that I'm using my pop socket to stabilize the phone a lot when I'm using my other hand to get her attention. So again, get her into the toy and bring it back to the lens. Get her into the toy, bring it back to the lens. And you see she's on the third there also. There we go. And give her the toy, pay your models. And there we go. So now we are gonna switch back and what is it? All right, we've got a little bit of time, so we're gonna go switch back. I think we're unfortunately gonna have to skip the editing portion of this, but if I'll include some resources for that in the follow-up email. And if you have any questions, photo editing can take your photos to the next level really easily. You can edit with just the Photos app on your iPhone. Snapseed is another great one. Lightroom for your phone is great. The Instagram editor is also great. They all have very similar settings where you adjust the shadows and the highlights, contrast, exposure, color, and things like that. And my best tip, which I'm not going to demonstrate right now because I'd like to get to Q&A, but my best tip is to, if you don't know what those settings do, like the shadows. Let's say you don't really know when you slide the slider for shadows or you slide the slider for highlights. You're like, what does that do? I don't know how to use all of this. Slide it all the way to the maximum and all the way to the minimum and see what it does. See how it changes your photo. And then make those adjustments in very tiny increments. I usually do very, very tiny adjustments and find a combo of all the different things you can change to get the best photo. So again, learn what all of those settings do in your photo editor by putting them all the way to the max and all the way to the minimum. See what changes in the photo. So if you have any questions about editing, we can go over that in the Q&A, or you can ask me later. We are going to move now back to the living room where the Wi-Fi is better and we have a laptop, and we'll switch to Q&A. So I'll meet you there. Give us just a minute.
Thank you so much, Stacey. That was so good. We got a lot of compliments for Escher, for Lola, for Atlas. They're just really great little models. Guys, if you guys want to put in your questions, just put your name and your question so that Stacey can start going through those. I think we already have 2 coming in. And yes, compliments for John as well. Thank you for being the other photographer in the room and taking such great shots. So the that the natural light in her apartment is pretty low, and so her pictures turn out yellow. Is there a light bulb that provides a more natural look, or do you have any other tips? And Patricia, feel free to unmute yourself and ask the question directly if you're still on the line.
Yeah, fantastic question. I'm sure a lot of you deal with this. So yes, oftentimes indoor lighting is very yellow. I prefer a little bit of warmth in my photos, so I think a little bit is okay. A lot of that can be fixed. You can either fix it by changing your light bulbs. Getting smart like Wi-Fi bulbs, the ones that you could change colors with an app, like the Philips Hues, or we have the brand Flux. Those are great because you can use those to change the color of your scene. You can also use those to balance out the weird colors from other lights. If you can't get those, you can also fix those color things in editing. So the iPhone editing program, Snapseed, Instagram editor, Visco, all of those things have adjustments that you can make to color casts and different colors. My advice is, again, look for natural light. It's got a great natural color. If there's anything in front of your light, like a shade or a scarf or even a piece of furniture, try to see if that yellow cast is coming from something that you can move or remove. For dim lighting, again, tap on the shadowy parts of your photo to expose for that and brighten those up. And remember, you can always fix it in some sort of photo editor.
Great, thank you. So the next question we had was, can you talk a little bit more about the rule of thirds and the grid setting? And I believe that was Leslie, and also, yes, that was Leslie. So Leslie, if you want to unmute yourself and ask the question, if you want to elaborate on that, please do so.
Hi. So yeah, I just didn't really catch it. So like if he's in the mid, like you would want his face in the, where would the face go, or what would go where?
Right, great question. Okay, so with the rule of thirds, if you imagine a tic-tac-toe board, so if you're looking at me right now, you can still see me, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, if you're looking at me right now, you see that I'm in a rectangular frame, right? Imagine that there are 2 vertical lines here, 2 horizontal lines here, like a tic-tac-toe board going across, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where those lines are gonna intersect is where you might want to try placing your subject to start with. So here I am, I'm centered, right? Centered in the frame. On a third would be here. So I could imagine that I'm a dog. I could ask my dog to either move over to a third, like here, or I can change the camera angle so that my dog is on a third here. And that makes for a much more interesting photo than just centered. Also, you'll notice that here when I'm talking to you, my head is in the top third of the frame rather than having it here right in the center, right? So even though, you know, it's fun to see these travel photos up on my wall, it just looks a lot nicer and makes your photos, it's like that instant professional look if you just change it a little bit so that things are on a third. It has a lot to do with, what's that spiral called? I can't remember it now, but
the golden ratio.
The golden ratio, yes, the golden ratio. Like if you imagine a shell, you'll see these patterns a lot in nature, and there's a reason that we're drawn to those things. So turn that grid on your phone, or just imagine it when you're taking photos. Great. Yeah, did that answer your question?
I think so. Just practice.
Yeah, just practice. Also remember, you can always try symmetry, and you don't always have to use rule of thirds. It's just a good thing to keep in mind. And start looking for it in every single photo you see. Also, you'll see these compositional rules used a lot in other types of visual art, like layout design, graphic design, painting. So start looking for those things in everything that you see. You'll notice it more and more, and as you start observing those things, it'll become easier for you to see it when you're composing your own photos.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So really quick, thank you, Stacey, so much. We have a couple of inquiries about the kind of blinds you have in your bedroom, and I don't know if you have the name, but if you send that over, I can include that in the follow-up email.
Okay.
So that everyone has the brand, but I'll move on to the photo questions. We have a question from Jackson, and the question is, should we shut off ceiling lights before a shot?
Great question. Unless you need that extra lighting. So let's say it's the only light in the room. If it's the only light in the room, keep it on. Just angle your pet and yourself and your phone so that the light is shining evenly down upon your pet. So if you have a bright ceiling light in a dark room, it might be better to shoot your pet from above and get them to look up at that light. That way, if you're shooting low or at their level and there's a lighting above them, you're gonna have a lot of shadows under the eyes and the nose, and just things shadowing on them. So try to get them to look up and toward the light. That will also get you those catch lights in their eyes. If you don't need that ceiling light, definitely turn it off. Overhead lighting, there was a wedding photographer that I worked for a little while who was just absolutely bonkers as a person, and she banned overhead lighting in the studio and in her home, and just she would not stand for overhead lighting. And that's a bit extreme, but it is true that overhead lighting is not really flattering for anyone. So try to bring in other lights that you can use, change the angle, or get your pet to look at that light. Also, keep in mind that a lot of ceiling lights will have a weird dome over them that might have a color to it. And when we moved into this apartment, our ceiling fan here had a yellowy, it was called antique glass dome over the lights. And I hated it so much. And John didn't really notice until I pointed it out. But once you notice the color of light shadows and highlights and where the light is hitting and the angle it's coming from, you'll become like me and never be able to get over it. And I apologize for that, but your photos will be better when you get rid of that antique glass bowl and get a white glass bowl that makes you have nice, clear white light in your house.
Great, thank you so much. So we have a question from Sari. Do you have any tips for photographing small mammals like rabbits and guinea pigs, particularly because their eyes are on the side of their heads?
Good question. Most of my experience, of course, is with cats and dogs. I've done one rabbit shoot and one guinea pig shoot. Horses, cows, sheep, lots of different farm animals. But in terms of actual pose, sort of portrait photography, I honestly haven't worked with those small animals a lot. But the same things apply here as they do with cats and dogs. Look for your lighting and your background. Figure out what gets your pet's attention. So with the guinea pig shoot that I did, it was 2 guinea pigs and we had to get this, great portrait for a calendar. And we had so many different types of vegetables that we tried to use to get them to look in a certain way. And just slowly move whatever they're looking at, slowly move it around until it looks like they're giving direct eye contact. So if they have their eyes more on the side of their head, you might not be able to get both eyes in the shot, but guinea pigs, they do give eye contact. It just looks a little different. So slowly move whatever they're focused on around and figure out the best angle to make it look like they're looking at you. You might also look at the lines of their mouth and try to make it look like they're smiling, which is a little pro tip, something to look out for. If they angle their head a certain way, it might make them look a little more like they're smiling. So yeah, just experiment and figure out really what gets their attention. For those guinea pigs, it was Swiss chard. They loved it, and yeah.
Thank you. That's so helpful. Jackson says, thank you. This session was so informative. I can't wait to use these tips. We do have one more question, which is, when it comes to framing outdoors, do you have any tips and tricks? I feel like that could be a whole class in itself, but if you have any quick ideas, we'd love to hear them.
Yeah, so outdoors opens up a whole new playground of things to consider. The same tips and rules that I just went over apply outside. Definitely pay a lot more attention to your background because you don't have as much control over that outside as you do at home. So look for people walking behind you and maybe wait for them to finish walking by, or maybe you move to a less populated area so that you don't have people walking around. Another important thing to look out for outside is arranging things within the frame of your photo so that any distracting background elements are covered or cut out, and also pay special attention to anything that might be protruding from your pet's head or body. So let's say you're outside, you're photographing your pet in a park, and there's a tree. Try not to have that tree like sticking out behind them. Maybe set the tree again on a third. So let's say this is the tree and this and the dog. Set the tree on the third here and the dog next to it. That's going to provide some balance in your photo, the tree with the dog. Try not to have the tree sticking out of their head. Look out for light poles, other people, other pets, and pay attention to lighting outside. It becomes a little more complicated outside because you're dealing with lots of different light sources and you can't control them. But you also have a ton of natural light outside, which is great. And try to find even lighting outside. So, on me right now, you can see very bright on this side, a little darker on this side. I might want to turn toward the window to get even lighting on my face. And if you're under trees, if it's a very bright sunny day, avoid shooting in that bright, direct sunlight, and avoid shooting in anything that has highlights and shadows, because that's going to be tough to fix. You might be able to get creative and do some creative things with light in that way, where you have shadows of leaves around your pet, which often looks cool. But it's difficult with a phone camera because the phone has trouble exposing for those bright parts with the dark parts. So if it's a bright sunny day, look for some shade. Find a building to stand under or a tree to stand under where you can get into shade where it's nice and even. It might not be as bright, but it's at least even. So even lighting is usually the most important thing outside. And safety first, of course, safety first outside. Keep your pet on a leash. Make sure they're having fun. Make sure you're not interrupting anyone around you or ruining anything. Safety first. And during this time, keep your mask on, your gloves on, all that sort of stuff, and keep it quick.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Stacey. I think that's the end of our questions today. Thank you so much again. I know it takes a lot of time and effort to put classes like this together. And I do want to give John a shout out for being so supportive and participating on a Saturday morning. I know you've had a full work week, so thank you, thank you, thank you. And to all of your pets as well. So everyone, you can probably see Stacey's information on the screen. Please follow her, and you'll probably see more tips, more cool photography. I also want to give a shout out to Eileen. I hope she's still on the call. Eileen is the director of the Washington Square Park Dog Run. She's my collaborator, my partner in crime in putting this series together. She has been working tirelessly to get these set up. So thank you so much. And we do have a full lineup of classes coming up. We have yoga with your pets. We have how to make your dog Insta famous. And we have a bunch of other cool classes coming up in the next few weeks. So please follow us as well. If you want to, you can unmute yourself and give Stacey a round of applause before we sign off. If your video and audio is working. Okay, well, thank you so much, and hope to see everyone soon. Stay well, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.